Welcome to the Deep Dive Books channel, where we hope you find something valuable every day.
Continuing with our exploration of Fluke by Brian Klaas, this is the second part of our interpretation. This book dives into a fundamental worldview question. Is everything in life the result of cause and effect, or are some things simply coincidental? The straightforward answer is that some things have causes, while others are purely by chance. But the question is more complex than that. The key point is that, when faced with a specific event, it's hard to view it as mere coincidence. You're likely to believe there's a reason behind it. You might not admit it, but you instinctively assume there's a cause and effect relationship behind many things. Causality gives you a sense of control. You silently believe that every action should have a goal and that finding the right solution will get you there. You also tend to think that those who appear successful must have done something right. While you may accept that small things happen by chance, it's hard to believe that major events are coincidental. Let's look at two words. Convergent. Indicating convergence, a path leading to a common outcome. Contingent. Meaning events depend on certain slight conditions, a series of chance happenings. Here's an example. Every morning, you head to work, taking a set route. But there are always minor differences along the way. Perhaps traffic today, or tomorrow you stop to watch something interesting, or take a detour to grab coffee. Once, you even spilled coffee on your shirt, had to go back and change, causing a delay. But regardless, you almost always arrive at work on time. This is convergent. Going to work is the main goal, and those minor events are just details. If a scientist were observing you, they'd conclude that going to work is the real signal and coffee stops are just noise. We're taught to search for signals in the world and ignore the noise. On the other hand, imagine a day where you go out without any specific plans. You head to a movie theater, thinking you'll watch a film if something good is showing. You then drop by a mall, run into a friend, and on a whim, decide to go target shooting. During shooting, you realize you're pretty good at it and decide to take up shooting as a sport. This is contingent. Which activities are the signal, and which are the noise? So, is life more convergent or contingent? Your daily commute may limit your view, making you overestimate the orderliness of the world. How much of the world converges on a common path, and how much is left to chance? This question is tough to answer because too many factors are involved. Everyone has some insights, but memory is unreliable, and small yet crucial details are often overlooked. Even research can't examine every factor in a person's life. Fortunately, nature provides us with the best laboratory. The evolution of living organisms. The way a species develops leaves traces in its appearance, traits, and especially its genetic map. By studying these connections, we gain profound insights. Scientists once thought evolution was purely convergent. Now, though, contingent phenomena are a hot topic. The core of Darwinian evolution is random mutation plus natural selection. Genes don't change based on what you need. Every mutation is random. But natural selection has a direction. In the present environment, mutations that help survival and reproduction are preserved, while detrimental ones are discarded. This is called selection pressure. Early scholars believed every trait in an organism was shaped by some selection pressure. While they accepted the randomness of genetic mutations, they saw everything as the result of selection pressure, meaning they ultimately believed in causation. Darwin observed, for example, that certain birds live on rocky cliffs where food can only be found in narrow crevices. If a bird's beak is too broad, it can't reach into those crevices to find food, so only birds with sharper beaks would survive. Even if the original population had broader beaks, selection pressure would favor those with mutations leading to sharp beaks. Any twists in this process wouldn't matter. The result would be the same. Convergence. This thinking dominated evolutionary theory for years. Scholars assumed every trait was either directly beneficial for survival or indirectly useful, such as attractiveness for mating. Everything, they believed, must have a purpose. Up until 1968, mainstream evolutionary scientists largely held this view. They thought everything we have today serves a function. Why is human skin hairless? To help us cool down while running. Why do we have hair on our heads? Well, find another reason. This thinking holds up in many cases, and one strong example is convergent evolution. Every trait is a solution to a problem, and often there are only a few optimal solutions, so they appear independently multiple times. The most famous example is that human eyes and the eyes of octopuses and squid are almost identical. But we and those creatures split off around 600 million years ago, before any of us had eyes. We developed eyes due to a mutation in a crucial gene called PX6. Octopuses and squid also had this mutation and, realizing the advantage of sight, retained it. Another example, which I only learned from this book, is about king crabs. These aren't actually crabs. They belong to a different evolutionary group from true crabs, and they evolved their hard shells independently. But, snow crabs are true crabs. Look at this picture and spot the difference. The hard shell is a good solution, so evolution has repeatedly shaped animals in this form. Some even joke that humans might evolve this way someday. Insects, bats, and birds all evolved the ability to fly on two wings independently. Perhaps that's just the best solution for flight, so they arrived at the same point through different paths. Convergent thinking is familiar. It's everywhere. Why do athletes around the world wear similar uniforms? Because it's practical. Why are smartphones rectangular? Because it's the best design. It's all about rationality. But natural selection also follows another path. That path is contingent. Some traits don't relate much to selection pressure. Klaas highlights two curious animals, with photos I've included. This is a platypus. Its bill looks somewhat like a duck's but is functionally different. It has a beaver-like tail and otter-like feet. As a mammal, it lays eggs. It even lacks nipples, secreting milk through pores near its abdomen. Why does a platypus look like this? Which survival or reproductive advantages does it represent? There's no particular reason. It simply developed this way. Natural selection didn't command it, but it allowed it. Then there's the binturong. Native to Southeast Asia, it resembles a small panda and has an unusual trait. Its urine smells like popcorn. It even rubs the scent on its paws and tail, spreading the smell wherever it goes, creating a movie theater-like ambience. What's the advantage of this trait? It likely has none. It just exists. This phenomenon is called genetic drift, meaning that some traits survive not because they improve survival but simply because they don't harm it. This concept, known as genetic drift, was formally introduced in 1968 by Japanese biologist Matou Kimura, and is now widely accepted. Not everyone agrees. Richard Dawkins, author of The Selfish Gene and a prominent evolutionist, seems to oppose genetic drift, favoring a belief that everything has a cause. But let's leave him aside for now. I believe genetic drift can't be entirely dismissed. A simple example is the uniqueness of human faces. Surely every distinct face isn't the result of evolutionary adaptation. Natural selection doesn't care if your eyes are slightly larger or smaller. It's up to you. Studies show that 78% of new species emerge due to a single mutation. There's no special reason. It's just a mutation that isn't detrimental enough to be eliminated by selection pressure. So, the species survives. And that's it. A more widespread contingent phenomenon is the survival of a few. Here's an interesting story. Most of us have three types of color receptors: red, green, and blue. So we see a vibrant, colorful world. Such people are trichromats. But some are red-green colorblind, as their eyes have only green and blue receptors, making them dichromats. Does being trichromatic give us any survival or reproductive edge? One tenuous theory is this. Millions of years ago, as fruit-eating primates in Africa, we evolved to see red to detect faintly red fruits, which would help us survive. So, trichromats became the majority, and dichromats were phased out. But this explanation falls short since color recognition isn't essential for finding fruit, and some animals with even poorer vision thrive. Most mammals are dichromatic. Dolphins and whales can't see color, perceiving a black and white world. Some birds, fish, insects, and reptiles can see ultraviolet light, making them tetrachromats. In 2016, a researcher in the UK discovered a tetrachromat. A doctor who could see a vastly richer spectrum of colors than most of us. Why, then, are trichromats so common, while dichromats and tetrachromats are so rare? It could be due purely to chance. Genetic analyses suggest humanity went through multiple bottlenecks in history, with populations dwindling to as few as 10,000 or, at worst, just 2,000 individuals. Imagine such a scenario. Originally, there were many kinds of people, but then only 2,000 were left. It's highly likely that those 2,000 shared certain traits, like trichromacy. Those 2,000 became our ancestors, so the trait was passed down. It's like saying that, if there were a major catastrophe on Earth in the future, and only 2,000 Chinese people survived, then all future humans would look like Chinese people. People would then think that humanity had always looked this way. I'm not sure if these evolutionary examples have convinced you. The reality is that many things happen without any particular reason, yet they still have far-reaching impacts. Perhaps having clear reasons is rare, and it's randomness that's truly common. What guidance does this offer on a personal level? It shows that you don't need others to give you meaning or guidance. Convergent evolution drives competition toward homogeneity. Imagine if everyone believed that success was solely the result of applying the right effort in the right way. This belief would lead everyone to work on the same goals, pursue the same jobs, and share the same values, eventually resulting in widespread involution. A cycle of doing more of the same. But if we accept the randomness of the world and recognize that many things lack absolute right or wrong answers, then we gain a lot more freedom. Imagine you're a doctor. No matter how many doctors exist in the world, at this moment, the patient in front of you only has you. It's as if you were the only human left. Right now, it's your genes that will determine what happens next. So you should say to every patient, "It seems we were meant to meet. Meeting me is your good fortune." That's the content for today. In the next part, we'll discuss basins of attraction and tipping point.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.